What's up, my dudes? Holy nut, we're getting an MXGP 3 in 2017. What is going on here, man? It has only been a year since the MXGP 2 came out, so I don't know what they're doing here, but it's kind of getting in that sketchy realm of like a Call of Duty where it comes out every year, like a Madden or something like that, where they don't really change the game just a whole lot, and it causes it to have these like really, really small changes, and it's almost basically like DLC updates more so than it is a whole new game. I'm not saying that's what this game's like. I'm just saying, that has to come into mind whenever you think about it's only been a year, man, since MXGP 2. So when you think about like rebuilding something from the ground up, it's a lot of times that takes more than 1 year, so there's no telling. I don't know exactly how long they've been working on it. I'm not really sure. They may have been working on this like after they, or like before they had got MXGP2 done, you know what I mean? Like they may have been working on it for a year and a half instead of just a year, so there's really no telling, but we'll just have to see. But yeah, dude, more than real is what it says on the website, so we'll just have to wait and see. I'm just going to talk about some of the things I want to see and some of the things I thought was cool about MXGP2, that kind of thing. So it's coming spring 2017, which is pretty damn close, dude. So I don't know. I mean, man, I was not expecting that. I was thinking more like 2018 or at the earliest like late 2017 for an MXGP3 kind of game coming out. But some things that I want to see changed. I think the cornering with the MXGP2, that is their bread and butter, dude. The way the bike just has this kind of natural slide motion in the corners, I think that's something that really separates the MXGP series from some other motocross games out there, and that's a very important thing to have, because if you don't have something different like that, then how are you going to compete with your competition? You just can't. So that's something I think they should change the quote-unquote least amount, is their cornering. I mean, obviously they're going to have to change it a little bit if they update their physics and stuff like that. But that's what I would say, touch the least amount. And on their website, it says that they're going to be using the Unreal Engine 4, and they're going to have the complete MXGP 2016, including the MX Nations, and then gameplay and physics improvements, along with brand new gorgeous graphics, and then will ensure a complete immersion in the MXGP world. Dynamic changing weather, so that's kind of sick, something a little bit different, something pretty cool that needs to be in this next game to make it a little more revolutionary. High resolution terrain deformation, so that's solid. We definitely need some good terrain deformation. Updated physics are just some of the features that will make MXGP3 more than real. So that's kind of their little, what they say on their website and stuff, which is cool. I mean, it looks like they're kind of diving into the right things that they need to be changing. Now, one thing about MXGP2 is, to me, it just felt like you could not lean forward enough. It was like, it was almost like the bike had this like back end heavy kind of feeling. It was like you could lean back pretty good, but you couldn't lean forward properly. It was really hard to angle the bike down, like down the jump faces and stuff like that. That was just one little thing I noticed. And another thing is with MXGP2, the tracks, the overall scale of them seems to be cramped down. And I know this is probably something everybody says, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there so you guys can, hear it. I mean, just as things I want them to change, the track scales seem to be cramped down. Your jumps seem to be shorter. It just has that kind of bizarre, everything feels kind of smaller than it would be in real life, it seems like. It's like you're just not getting the thrill factor of really jumping bigger jumps, and you don't really get that sense of speed, it seems like, for whatever reason, and you don't get that true feeling of momentum in this game in MXGP2. So that would be something that would be cool if they could improve that, because it seems like with MXGP2, when you jump something and then you land, it's like you almost lose all your momentum no matter how good you land something. It's kind of weird. It's like there's a this like floaty feeling in the air. And I know this is like coming from an MX Simulator fanboy, so obviously I'm going to say that stuff, but I think it's even a little more than it should be for an arcade game, and just the overall cush feeling on the bike, where it's just everything's too cushy, dude. 420 blaze it, dog. Like, it just feels like you're on a cloud. It's like you're not gritty enough and solid enough to the ground. That's what it feels like. So that's something I would love to see. You know, they get it more of a raw to the ground feeling on the bike. That would be cool. So another thing is the customization. Seems like there's a ton of different things you can actually customize in MXGP2, but there's just not... There's kind of a lack of brands in a certain way. And you'll notice that, like, with some of the gear, just seems like, please put in some Galaxy gear, by the way, MXGP3. I will totally rock that shit. But it just seems, you know, it's like I would just love to see more customization as far as actually, not necessarily more things to customize, because you can basically customize everything, but just more of that, you know, more gear, more boot, more helmets, more all that different kind of stuff that you can actually go in there and adjust. And you know, maybe even gloves, you can change your gloves and stuff like that. That'd be something just a little extra. But yeah, dude, so that was something pretty cool in the Stadium series. I think that was awesome to have an MXGP2. It seems like I would want to see it get more technical, though, and I'm sure everybody and their grandmother has said that as well. All these things that I'm saying are pretty obvious stuff that you would realize playing MXGP2, but I think they've got the technicality on their Supercross tracks maxed out for the way the physics is in the game at this point. So, you know, they're going to have to upgrade their physics to have more technical style tracks, or it's just not going to work. You know, it's kind of like they've got that pegged out with their current physics. So it makes sense as to why it's that way right now, and it goes into making the whoops more difficult. If they make them more difficult, they're going to have better physics on the bike so that you can actually get over the whoops and it looks proper and all that kind of stuff. Now with the first person camera, I think they should angle it down a little bit, and they should zoom it out a little bit. That just seemed like it actually made me kind of nauseous playing with it a little bit, and I never experienced that with first person, like, you know, Reflex or MX Simulator. But I did experience that with MXGP2. It's like you can't see enough of the front fender, and it feels like it's just zoomed too far in, like your field of view is kind of jacked up a little bit. So another thing is collision. It's still a little funky with MXGP2. Sometimes you can jump off a triple and land right on top of somebody and they won't even budge. And then you can come up on the inside of somebody and barely tap them, and then you just insta-die. So they've got a little bit of inconsistencies with their actual collision, so I think that needs a little bit of tweaking. But yeah, man, MXGP3, it'll be cool to see. I can't believe it's coming out this quick. The dynamic changing weather and the terrain deformation that they're talking about, that's going to be very interesting. That could really push the game to the next level. And then obviously updating the physics, you know, the whip physics. They are not good in MXGP2. It's almost like the physics in MXGP2 as far as whipping and all that, it's kind of like, it's almost like you're just hitting a button to whip. I mean, that's almost how it is. It just is not fluent the way that you come off of the jump faces and stuff. Like Reflex, I think they nailed that aspect as far as an arcade game, as much as an arcade game can actually get. You can actually scrub pretty decent in MXGP2, but as far as like just having a solid whip off of a jump face, it just doesn't happen properly. And that everything kind of goes back to the physics. So whenever I first got into MXGP2, one of the first things I did was went in there and took off all of the handicap settings. I mean, that was the first thing I did. And I don't know if that's for me being an MX Simulator player or what that is, but in it, when you talk about physics and stuff like that in games, that's basically one of the biggest things people talk about in motocross games these days is the physics, bro. You gotta have perfect physics or the game just sucks. I'm pretty sure you've heard a million people say that, and I'll even say it because it's probably the most important thing. So, but it seems like nowadays it's almost like we're all gravitating to more of a simulator level of physics. You know, it's like everybody wants better physics, better physics, better physics. Well, it has to get to a point where you start edging off of that arcade physics, and then you're getting into the realm of the simulator physics. You see what I'm saying? So I feel like that's what we're all like moving towards. You know, you cannot have a simulator that's an arcade game. It's impossible. You can have like elements from some, you know, in the game, but it's impossible to have a perfect mixture, in my opinion, because if it gets too realistic with the physics, then it gets too hard to be an arcade game. You see what I'm saying? So it's like it kind of gets to that point a little bit, but so it's pretty crazy because you got to think about like what kind of game are we actually looking for? I mean, when it comes to arcade motocross games, what are we trying to get to here? And what's the long-term game we're trying to find? And for me personally, MX Simulator is that game. But I mean, if you're not into MX Simulator or you're not into how difficult some of those simulator games can be, then you're still kind of looking for your next arcade game because Reflex is kind of dying out a little bit. You know, it's mellowed off. It's just been out for absolute ever, and arcade dudes are looking for something new, and that's completely understandable. And I'm definitely looking for some new arcade games as well on that side of it. But for me, like, MX Simulator completely fills that void of, man, where's that motocross game I can just sink 50,000 hours into and just get really good at it and professionally race on it, be super competitive, and it be like this never-ending, updating game? Well, that's MX Simulator for me. So, but yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it. Definitely let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I will be covering a lot of MXGP 3 when it comes out, so that'll be kind of cool, just a little something different gameplay-wise. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.